What happens when you scroll through Tubi's horror section and suddenly realize nothing looks normal anymore? Strange titles, wild posters, movies that feel like they crawled out of a forgotten tape drawer. Halfway through browsing, you start wondering which ones are actually worth your time. That's where this list comes in. These aren't polite horror movies. These are the ones that swing big, get weird, and don't apologize for it. And somewhere near the end, one of these choices quietly proves that chaos can still be brilliant. Number 12. The Video Dead, 1987. This movie begins with one of the most ridiculous ideas ever put on film, and it never backs down. A mysterious television set shows only one channel. That channel plays the same strange horror movie over and over, and then the figures on the screen step out into the real world. That alone tells you exactly what kind of experience you are in for. The Video Dead feels like it was made by people who loved horror movies so much they stopped worrying about logic entirely. The acting swings wildly from sincere to completely unhinged, but somehow that only adds to the charm. The story follows siblings who inherit a quiet house and accidentally unleash chaos simply by turning on the wrong television. What makes this one stand out is how committed it is to its own nonsense. The creatures look surprisingly detailed, covered head to toe in makeup that gives them a truly grimy presence. The movie leans hard into suburban horror, where calm streets slowly turn uncomfortable. There is also a surprising amount of fall atmosphere baked into the setting, which makes it perfect for spooky season viewing. Is it polished? Not even close, but it knows exactly what it is. The Video Dead is the kind of movie that makes you laugh, stare in disbelief, and somehow stay completely entertained the whole time. Number 11. The Screaming Skull, 1958. This is one of those movies that sounds silly until you actually sit down with it. A newly married woman moves into a large mansion where strange things begin happening. Most of those strange things involve a skull that seems to appear where it should not be. The Screaming Skull comes from a time when atmosphere mattered more than speed. It is quiet, it is slow, and it uses shadows, silence, and suggestion to do most of the work. The black and white photography gives the mansion a heavy, eerie presence, making every hallway feel longer than it should. What really makes this movie unforgettable is how seriously it takes itself. There is no irony here. The film fully believes that a skull can carry fear all on its own. And honestly, it works more often than you would expect. The sound design especially stands out, with unsettling audio cues that creep in when you least want them to. There is also a famously bold opening narration that promises the ending is so frightening it might overwhelm you. That kind of confidence is impossible to ignore. Even when the movie leans into camp, it feels intentional rather than accidental. This is classic spooky season viewing. Short, strange, and strangely effective. Number 10. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, 1988. This movie opens with a glowing object falling from the sky and immediately lets you know it has no interest in being subtle. Killer Clowns from Outer Space takes a simple idea and pushes it as far as humanly possible. What if visitors from beyond looked like circus performers and treated chaos like a carnival act? The answer is 90 minutes of colorful madness. Everything about this movie commits fully to the joke. The designs are unforgettable. Bright colors, exaggerated faces, costumes that feel playful and unsettling at the same time. The tone balances humor and tension without ever winking at the camera too hard. It wants you to enjoy the ride, not analyze it. What makes this one endure is craftsmanship. The effects are practical and creative, giving every scene personality. The music leans into a fun, energetic rhythm that keeps the pace moving. Even the small-town setting feels alive, with characters reacting in ways that feel human despite the absurd situation. Killer Clowns is bonkers in the purest sense. It knows its premise is ridiculous and treats that as a strength. This is comfort chaos, the kind of movie that makes spooky season feel playful instead of heavy. Number 9. Chopping Mall, 1986. This movie takes one very specific fear and builds an entire story around it. A group of friends spend the night inside a shopping mall just as new high-tech security machines are activated. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Shopping mall is lean, fast, and delightfully focused. It does not waste time with complicated backstories. It sets the stage, introduces the characters, and lets the situation spiral. The mall setting is perfect, full of empty stores, echoing hallways, and bright lights that somehow make everything feel more exposed. The machines at the center of the story are simple but effective. Their design is clean and functional, which makes their behavior more unsettling. They do not rush, they do not hesitate, they simply continue. What really sells the movie is pacing. Each scene builds logically on the last, creating steady tension without dragging. The characters react with believable panic and problem-solving, which helps keep the story grounded even as it leans into genre fun. Shopping Mall is a reminder that bonkers does not require excess. Sometimes all you need is one location, one idea, and the confidence to follow it through. Number 8. Circus of Horrors, 1960. This one carries a quiet cruelty beneath its colorful surface. A traveling circus becomes the center of the story, filled with performers, secrets, and a man who uses his profession to control others. Circus of Horrors has a strong visual identity. The carnival setting gives it constant movement, color, and unease. Even when nothing frightening is happening, the atmosphere never feels safe. The cast is filled with expressive faces that make every scene feel slightly uncomfortable. What stands out most is how the story handles control and transformation. Characters are treated like objects rather than people, and the film never lets you forget that. It builds tension slowly, letting resentment and fear simmer under the surface. There is also a surprising elegance to how the movie is shot. It looks far more polished than you might expect, with confident direction and a steady pace that never drags. The performances sell the story without exaggeration, making the darker moments hit harder. Circus of Horrors proves that bonkers does not always mean loud. Sometimes it means quietly disturbing. Number 7. Curtains, 1983. This movie feels like it escaped from a troubled production and decided to make that everyone else's problem. Curtains follows a group of actresses invited to a remote mansion to audition for a mysterious film role. Almost immediately, the atmosphere turns cold, literally and emotionally. Curtains is fascinating because it never quite settles into one identity. It starts like a psychological drama, then swerves into a slasher, then briefly pretends it wants to be something more serious. And somehow that confusion becomes part of its appeal. You can feel multiple creative visions pulling against each other, which gives the movie a strange, off-balance energy. The performances are stronger than you might expect, especially from the more seasoned cast members. The mansion setting works beautifully, giving the story an isolated, uneasy feel. But the real reason this movie sticks with people is its imagery. The masked figure used here is unforgettable, not flashy, just deeply unsettling in a quiet way. There is also a sequence set against snow and ice that has become legendary among horror fans. It is slow, tense, and visually striking in a way that still stands out decades later. Curtains may be messy, but it is memorably messy, and that makes it bonkers in the best way. Number 6. The Monster Club, 1981. This is the kind of movie that feels like a party someone forgot to explain to you. The Monster Club stars a legendary genre icon as a vampire who invites a writer into a secret gathering place where monsters relax, perform music, and tell stories. The concept alone sets the tone. This is not meant to be subtle. The creatures look theatrical, the sets feel like stage productions, and the entire movie leans into playful absurdity. It unfolds as an anthology, with different stories introduced through conversations inside the club. Some segments are funny, some are oddly touching. One leans into genuine creepiness, far more than you might expect from such a colorful setup. That unpredictability is part of the charm. You never quite know what the next story will bring. Music plays a big role here, popping up between segments in ways that feel surprising and strangely catchy. The performances fully commit, especially the lead, who brings warmth and humor to a role that could have easily turned stiff. The Monster Club feels like a celebration of classic monster culture filtered through playful madness. It is silly, strange, and impossible to forget once you have seen it. Number 5. Once Bitten, 1985. This movie understands exactly what it wants to be. Once Bitten is lighthearted, colorful, and unapologetically goofy. It follows a young man desperate to impress his partner, unaware that a mysterious woman has her own strange agenda tied to Halloween night. What makes this one work is charm. The lead performance is bursting with energy and likability, making it easy to root for him even when he is completely overwhelmed. The supporting cast adds to the fun, especially the central figure who brings elegance and confidence to the story. The movie leans heavily into seasonal atmosphere. Costumes, decorations, and party scenes give it a festive feeling that fits perfectly with spooky season. It is the kind of movie that feels better watched with the lights low and snacks nearby. The humor lands because it never takes itself too seriously. It knows when to pause for a joke and when to lean into fantasy. Even the more exaggerated moments feel intentional rather than forced. Once Bitten may not be frightening, but it is endlessly rewatchable. It is proof that bonkers horror does not always mean intense. Sometimes it just means joyful chaos. Number 4. Basket Case, 1982. This movie has a reputation for a reason. Basket Case is grimy, strange, and proudly uncomfortable. It follows a man traveling through the city with a large basket that hides something he desperately wants to keep secret. From the start, the setting feels raw and lived in. The city is not glamorous. It is loud, crowded, and slightly hostile. That environment becomes a character of its own, amplifying the tension as the story unfolds. What really defines this movie is its commitment to oddness. The relationship at the center of the story is intense, emotional, and unlike anything else in the genre. It is not played for easy laughs, even when moments become outrageous. There is a sincerity underneath the madness that makes it surprisingly compelling. The effects are practical and unapologetic. They may look rough, but they have personality. You can feel the creativity behind them, even when they push boundaries. Basket Case is not polished. It is not gentle, but it is unforgettable. And that fearless originality is exactly why it remains a cult favorite. Number 3. The Beyond, 1981. This movie does not care if you understand it. The Beyond operates on dream logic, where atmosphere matters more than explanation. The story centers on a building with a dark history, but the plot quickly dissolves into pure sensation. Scenes bleed into one another without clear transitions. Time feels unstable. Logic bends, and that is entirely intentional. The director was more interested in how fear feels than how it works. Visually, the movie is striking. Lighting, sound, and music combine to create a constant sense of dread. Even quiet moments feel heavy, as if something unseen is always nearby. The pacing is deliberate, allowing tension to simmer rather than explode. This is a movie that rewards patience. If you let it wash over you instead of fighting it, the experience becomes hypnotic. It lingers long after it ends, not because of answers, but because of mood. The Beyond is not for everyone, but for those who connect with it, it feels like stepping into a nightmare you do not want to wake from. Number 2. Brain Damage, 1988. This movie starts strange and somehow just keeps getting stranger. Brain Damage follows a young man whose quiet life is interrupted by a small creature that speaks politely, sounds friendly, and promises pleasure beyond imagination. There is just one problem. This new companion slowly takes control. What makes Brain Damage unforgettable is the personality of the creature itself. It talks, it jokes, it even sings, and that cheerful tone clashes perfectly with the growing chaos around it. The contrast makes everything feel deeply unsettling without ever needing to shout. The movie uses bright colors and stylized lighting to create a surreal atmosphere. Scenes feel slightly unreal, as if the world is slipping sideways while no one is paying attention. The lead performance sells that confusion beautifully. You can feel the character slowly losing balance while trying to act normal. There is also a deeper layer here about dependence and temptation, handled in a way that feels natural rather than preachy. The story never stops to explain itself. It just keeps moving forward, trusting the audience to keep up. Brain Damage is bold, imaginative, and completely unafraid of being weird. It is the kind of movie that reminds you why low-budget horror can be so creative when it follows instinct instead of rules. Number 1. Drag Me to Hell, 2009. This movie earns its place at the top by being fearless, fast, and wildly inventive. Drag Me to Hell tells the story of a kind, ambitious woman whose ordinary decision sets off a chain of supernatural consequences she never sees coming. What makes this film special is balance. It blends humor, tension, and spectacle without letting any one element take over. The pacing is relentless, constantly pushing the story forward while still allowing characters to breathe. Every scene feels purposeful. The director's style is unmistakable. Camera movement, sound design, and visual tricks are used in playful but effective ways. Even moments that feel exaggerated are carefully controlled. The movie understands that fear can come from surprise just as much as darkness. The lead performance anchors everything. The character feels relatable, flawed, and human, which makes the escalating situation far more intense. You want her to win, even as the odds become increasingly unfair. Drag Me to Hell proves that a movie does not need to be heavy to be impactful. It is fun, frantic, and unforgettable, and that final moment stays with you long after the screen goes dark. So next time you find yourself scrolling through Tubi wondering where all these strange movies came from, remember this list. These are the ones that take risks, lean into chaos, and refuse to play it safe. If you have seen any of these, let me know which one surprised you the most. If you have not, pick one and press play. And if you love discovering movies that feel a little unhinged in the best way, make sure to subscribe and share this with someone who enjoys the strange side of horror. Because sometimes the weirdest movies are the ones you remember longest.